say that they were there at the office and it was closed. So apparently they did not get the message that it was online and virtual.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
So I sent them my connection, you know, the same connection I have.
Thank you for that.
I saw that too. Okay, let's see.
All right, we'll just get started here in
Please start the live feed.
All right. I think, okay, we are live on YouTube. Smile for the camera, everybody. I think I'm gonna use that every time now. I don't have a thing yet, so I have a few more months to get my my thing down. Well, welcome to the first calendar year meeting of the PlanRVA full commission meeting. Great to see everybody, albeit virtual. I will be much greater to see you all in person. And I know I've actually listened into a lot of different localities and the rollout of the vaccines, and just for everybody involved in that, you know, keep up the good work, fight the good fight. It's worth fighting. So keep up with that. Wanted to welcome some, I believe we might have some new folks joining us, Ms. Heater. I'm not sure I have that list though.
Yes, we do. We do have some new appointees to the commission for 2021, and I know that some are on the call. With the City of Richmond, you all are aware that Ms. Larson and Mrs. Gray have been replaced with new appointees. So we have Anne Francis Lambert here on the call this morning. Glad to have you. Thanks for being with us. And Andreas Addison, some of you might know him from serving on the TPO. He was also appointed to the commission board. In addition, I think we in December gave thanks to Mr. Archer from Henrico County. He has rotated off of the Planning District Commission, and Gregory Baca has been reappointed to the commission. So glad to have him when he joins as well.
Excellent. Well, welcome all, and we are glad to have you and look forward to working with you. Now, if I could get our Vice Chair, Mr. Winslow, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Certainly, if you'd join with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we, as posted in our agenda and online in the packet, is our statement for virtual meetings, which explains how to engage. You know, we do look forward to the day where we can have, again, the public with us and communicating their concerns to the commission. But we do have to thank the staff for what I think month after month is a much better process, and just learning, and the new technology keeps evolving, and they're keeping right up with it to use all the bells and whistles that these platforms are rolling out to meet the needs to be able to continue to be effective in this manner. Who could you have thought, and I've only been doing this stuff for a year, could you would have ever imagined 10 years ago that you would be sitting at home or in an office looking at a screen like the Jetsons and conducting government business? That's wild. So times they are changing, folks. At that, I will ask Ms. Wisco to please do a roll call and certification of quorum.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Charles City County, Mr. Coda. Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson. Ms. Russell.
Here.
Town of Ashland, Ms. Abbott. Mr. McGraw.
Here.
Goochland County, Ms. Lascalette. Chair Spoonhour.
Here.
Chesterfield County, Mr. Carroll.
I am here.
Thank you. Mr. Davy,
I'm here. Good morning, everybody.
Ms. Fry,
Here.
Ms. Haley.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Holland,
Here. Good morning to everyone.
Mr. Engel,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
I'm here.
Vice Chair Winslow.
Good morning.
Good morning. City of Richmond, Mr. Addison,
Here.
Mr. Blackwood, Mr. Giovia, Ms. Lambert.
Present. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. Ms. Lynch, Dr. Newbell.
Good morning. Here.
Thank you. Mr. Poole, Ms. Robertson, Hanover County, Mr. Davis, Ms. Lorenzon, Mr. Peterson,
Here.
Ms. Pritchard, Mr. Whitaker,
Here.
Henrico County, Mr. Baca.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Brannon, Mr. Mackey.
Present. Good morning.
Thank you. Reverend Nelson,
Here.
Ms. O'Bannon,
Here.
Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Thornton.
Here,
Thank you. New Kent County, Mr. Lockwood,
Here.
Mr. Moyer.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Ms. Page.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Powhatan County, Mr. Byerly.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Hall. Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
Thank you, Ms. Fusco, and looks like we do have a quorum. At this time, we would entertain any public comments. Ms. Heater, do we have anyone that has submitted a comment or has their hand? I guess they wouldn't have their hand raised on YouTube.
No, we did not have any comments submitted before the deadline.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any requests to change any of the order of the business? Okay, then we will move right along as planned. Into our consent agenda, we have the approval of the meeting minutes. As many of you probably are aware, our secretary, Mr. Nordvig of Powhatan County, has resigned his position on the Board of Supervisors. Ms. Heater has been working with them, and they will be naming a replacement next year, but the minutes have been presented. And then there's also the 2021 grant application authorization that I believe we spoke about last month. But Ms. Heater, did you want to give any a quick summary of that?
Yes, thank you. It might be also helpful to refer to page 13 of your agenda package. There's a nice summary there that was prepared by one of our staff members, Sarah Stewart. We are interested actually in applying for a new grant opportunity to assist with online floodplain mapping. We think that this will be a really helpful tool and was a suggestion from one of our member jurisdictions that this could be a really great opportunity for the commission to provide additional support to the local members. So we are requesting authorization to apply for a $20,000 grant that would be matched with $20,000 in kind. This grant application is due later this month, and so we are required to include board authorization with that submittal. And with your authorization and approval of the consent agenda, that will allow us to move forward with the request.
Thank you, Ms. Heater. Any discussion on either items A and B before we entertain a motion? Okay, hearing none, I would be happy to entertain a motion.
Mr.
So
Chair,
moved.
Ms. Page,
second, who can't?
I was all right. Was that, guys are too quick. Diana, did you catch who moved? Was it?
It was a tie between Miss Page and I. So you could, chairman's choice on that one, I think.
All right, well, I talked to you. I'm going to give it to Ms. Page.
Okay. I think that's fair.
I mean, you get the Pledge of Allegiance. I mean, that's probably the most exciting thing we do. All right. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Chair Spoonhour, could you confirm who was the first and who was the second?
Miss Page, just by a hair, though. It was lightning speed. And then Mr. Winslow was the second.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, folks. I will take an acclamation vote. All those in favor of approving the items on the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much, folks. Moving right along. Okay. We are going to now have Ms. Heater give us a quick update on the charter agreement revisions. You're muted.
I couldn't find my unmute button for a second. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Spoonhour. Just to orient you for this agenda item, this was a topic that was voted by the board to defer to this month from your December meeting discussion. I know that the executive committee had some conversation this morning, and Mr. Winslow, would you like to kick off perhaps a recommendation and a little bit more detail about where we are with the charter?
Certainly, Martha, and thank you. So as you all know, by the last time this body met, we deferred this item to allow jurisdictions to have further discussion. And I think where we are is the total package at this point in time, I'll call it the original total package, which includes all of the amendments, is either been passed by our member jurisdictions or is on the agendas to be passed, with the exception of, I think, at least one locality. And so, but that may be coming up here shortly. So I think the recommendation from the executive committee was to allow one more deferral for that body to consider the full package of amendments and then revisit this item after that in accordance with what happens at that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? So I'm hearing sort of on the table is a request to defer till our next meeting to allow the localities to really get a good understanding of where they are on the currently provided version.
Mr. Chairman, Canova Peterson, I'll make that motion for deferral.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Pat O'Bannon, second.
Thank you, Ms. O'Bannon. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of deferring the charter agreement revisions, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. We will take this up in March. Moving on to our second item of old business, 2021 key imperatives. And please indulge me by setting this up for a second. I'm very excited about this item. One of the things that has really dawned on me since assuming this role is the scope of work that the agency does, not just behind the scenes, but how they're planning for 2021. And I really feel that we would benefit from some transparency around here, especially right now for 2021. What are the key things that PlanRVA is working on to continue to lead this region in these efforts? And I've asked Ms. Heater to put together a presentation regarding that, talking about the 5 things that we believe are critical to our success, and not just for maintaining our organization, but to continuing to grow to meet the needs of the region. And she has put those together. I've asked her to review them at a high level. It's a great detailed outline of what we're looking to do to work on this year, in the hopes that you'll be able to take this away. There's detailed information that she'll demonstrate, but that you would take this away and look at it and ask questions of us of, hey, well, why is this on here? Why is this such a high priority? Or why aren't these things on here? So that we can have that conversation, so that this committee and staff can be aligned on, here's what's important to us, here's how we're looking to develop and grow as a great agency supporting the region. So with that, I will look to Ms. Heater to take it away.
Thank you, Chairman Spoonhour. Appreciate that introduction. I'll dive right in with the imperatives for 2021. Mr. Spoonhour said that there are 5, and have tried to lay them out in a clear and consistent way for you this morning. I'm going to, as he suggested, run through kind of an overview, but we'll let you know that we'll send this deck out to you after the meeting this morning so that you can review it, and the subsequent slides that give greater detail for each of the imperatives. Would love to get your feedback and response over the next couple of weeks as we prepare for the March Commission meeting, and would be very happy to talk through any of the imperatives, as Mr. Spoonhour said. First imperative, stabilize our financial position. We'll talk in the Finance Committee's update this morning about the current status of agency's financials, but did want to be able to share with you some updates here as well. We are in the process of engaging some technical resources to assist with that. Our goals include improving financial reporting and quality, capacity for our internal operations, and our internal financial management processes. Certainly, we want to continue to strengthen our executive management capabilities, and ultimately, with the target of achieving fiscal year 2021 audit success. Second imperative, managing core operations. We are administrators of a lot of federal and state grant programs, and so assuring that we meet the compliance requirements for each of those grant programs is always important. We want to make sure that we are able to maintain our eligibility in those programs to receive the renewals, and to be able to assure that we have the relationships in place with our state and federal partners to continue to have new grant opportunities come our way. We'll continue to complete and work on putting better report outs to you on project activities and program priorities. And so again, I think Mr. Spoonhour mentioned, we want to make sure that we're putting useful information in front of you about what the commission staff members are working on, and how that's benefiting your jurisdictions. Always will continue to maintain positive internal and external relationships that extends, among the staff, with the board, member jurisdictions, our partner organizations, and continuing to make sure that we're maintaining those relationships effectively. And finally, building organizational staff capacity. This is an item that should sound familiar to you from our strategic planning framework. We want to continue to make sure that our staff is poised to be able to take on new responsibilities that are identified as priorities, and to make sure that we are positioned well to be able to move the organization into the future. Third imperative, increase revenues. We know that it's critical through this process to be able to identify new streams of revenue to support the work that we need to do for the organization and for the region. And so as part of that, we've set as a target to develop and implement a brand strategy that includes articulation of our value proposition. What is it that we do in service to the member jurisdictions, and how do we effectively communicate that? With the goal of increasing demand for services. The idea is that if we're more effectively articulating who we are, what we do, what our capacities are to support local governments, then the demand for those services will increase, not just from member jurisdictions, but potentially from other revenue streams, state agencies, and the like. And that's going to take increased engagement with board members and our locality staff to make sure that it's clear how we can work as an extension of your local government staff to be able to help fulfill the objectives that you have in your jurisdictions and across the region. Imperative 4, drive new initiatives. This year has definitely been surprising in many respects, I think for all of us, certainly with the COVID-19 and the impacts of the pandemic on local government operations and finances. Everyone has had to make a pretty strong pivot. I'm incredibly grateful to our staff for their creativity and flexibility during this time. We were able to launch the COVID-19 Response Fund, which pushed about $7 million of private donations out into the community across the 25 locality footprint of the Emergency Management Alliance. And that's definitely been a huge opportunity to think differently about how our region can come together in the wake of a disaster. So while it was a momentary response, it's an example of how we can continue to work together to address needs in the community, whether it be a hurricane or some other type of event in the future. As many of you know, we've been involved in the startup and the launch of the Central Virginia Transportation Authority. Our staff has been providing administrative support to that entity as it gets up and running. And we're tremendously grateful and excited to be able to be a part of this point in history, quite frankly, for our region, but also have been able to align the priorities of the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization and that staff capacity there to be able to really bring some exciting progress to that organization. In anticipation of the release of the 2020 census data, we have been gearing up to update our regional indicators. Many of you are familiar with that. The last time we did a published piece was in 2018. That piece was I think it's about 42 indicators across 8 priority areas that we measure, and we set a benchmark for comparison to peer regions across the country. Looking to refresh that regional indicators project, make sure that it is current and useful to the conditions that each of you are facing in your localities in a post-COVID world, but also are measuring the things that are important to you. So we're looking to kick that off in March, and are excited about where that can go as we have access to new data sources in the coming year. And finally, growing new opportunities for emergency management and our environmental programs. Both of those programs over the last 2 years have grown significantly in the number of grant awards that we've been able to secure, and we're really excited about that. So really trying to grow those portfolios to make sure that those opportunities are available to the jurisdictions, much like the floodplain mapping application that you approved for us this year. That falls right into line with that category. And then finally, the 5th imperative, advancing special priorities. A number of things that may not seem like they're core to the imperatives, but have definitely been things that we're trying to maintain focus and traction on this year. Certainly for our own administrative functionality and office operations, addressing the health and safety measures that have been put into place originally in a temporary fashion and now in the permanent standards, making sure that our office is a place that our staff members can come to work and be safe and meet the compliance there. We've been focused on that. Working for future office space needs. Many of you know that our lease agreement for the current office space does come due in the near term. And so working on identifying what the best course of action with regard to that lease and our future office space looks like. All of you are aware, we've been focused on moving the charter revision process forward. And then finally, I'll just let you know that I've been working to build some collaborative relationships with other regional entities that serve multiple jurisdictions, similar footprint as ours, to identify ways that we could streamline some of our administrative functions. Are there ways that we can benefit from the resources that our respective organizations have to offer for more cost effectiveness or kind of increased capacity? So continuing to work on that front to be able to move some of those initiatives forward. And I hope to be able to bring some ideas back to the executive committee in the coming months that could ultimately come to the full commission for consideration. Um, that's a very high level overview. Each of the 5 imperatives have an additional slide behind them that is formatted very similarly to this one, that gives a little bit more detail within each of those topical objectives for each imperative, and a timeline there at the bottom of when we envision those efforts really kicking off, or how they'll continue over the course of the fiscal year. So this will be provided to you by email. As I said, each of the 5 imperatives do have a backup slide to be able to give some more detail. And the hope is that this will stimulate some conversation over the next few weeks to be able to get some feedback, answer questions, and this will return to your agenda, if I'm not mistaken, at the March meeting for additional discussion and hopefully approval.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Heater. I just want to just chime in real quick before we move on to our committee reports. This is, in my opinion, is a bold move. You know, it's one thing we all do some of us may have gone through the exercise of doing our New Year's resolutions. It's one thing to have your New Year's resolution and, you know, put it out there. I'm going to lose this much weight, do this or not do that. But it's another thing to declare to the universe on YouTube, and not to all of us, to say, hey, here's what we're looking at, and I'm looking for you to hold me accountable to these things and talk about what's important. So I appreciate Ms. Heater doing that. This is one level, right? This is the high level strategy piece. The other piece that I've asked Ms. Heater to work on is stems from the weekly conversations that we have. And in those conversations, I can pretty much say 100% of the time, Martha mentions something that the agency is doing that is really fantastic that I wasn't necessarily aware of, and I'm pretty close to it right now. So we're working on a way to give a snapshot of the programs that we're working on and their status, which I think is really going to support imperative number 3. Now, I think especially a smaller locality such as Goochland that may not have the larger resources and the larger staff of some of the larger localities, there are a lot of things that we have to shelve because we just don't have the resources to do it. And lo and behold, in almost every situation, I found that PlanRVA can offer some sort of, come alongside and offer some sort of service, which helps the county and helps our revenue stream. That's where it comes from. So building that brand strategy and being able to articulate so that folks know, oh, if I need this, PlanRVA should be one of the first places I look to see if they can support us. So very excited about those 2 things and this. And again, please reach out to us with any feedback that you have on this, and we will look to take it up again next month. So thank you so much for that, Ms.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure, Ms. Sylvanan.
All right. The CVTA, isn't that under the TPO, not the PDC?
The CVTA is under the TPO. Well, no, it's actually under PlanRVA. I'll let Martha do a better job of me than me.
All right, because.
Go ahead, Martha.
Sure. The Planning District Commission, PlanRVA, holds the MOU for staff support services to the Central Virginia Transportation Authority, similar to the MOU that we have with the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization. So with both of those entities, we have an agreement between the Planning District Commission and the Transportation Organization to be able to provide staff support services, but the agreement is actually between the commission and the authority. Many of the same staff members, Mr. Parsons as lead staff to the CVTA, are the lead staff as well to the TPO. So lots of symmetry there and alignment with the staff members and how they're aligning the activities, particularly around regional prioritization. The TPO is undertaking a pretty significant effort right now to be able to establish regional project prioritization, and the CVTA will be reviewing that effort to determine whether that's something that in whole or in part might consider as a resource for the Central Virginia Transportation Authority's regional project prioritization as well.
So would it be fair to say, Ms. Heater, could you articulate this saying the CVTA or the PlanRVA is sort of is a standalone entity that supports both the RTPO and the CVTA, and sometimes there are staff that assist both, if not all three.
That's absolutely correct.
Ms. O'Ban, does that answer your question?
Yes, that's pretty much what it is. But I mean, the reason I say that is because I know the CVTA is working with the TPO. I mean, and you're saying that there's an MOU for the staff from PlanRVA. I mean, that was the funding and everything goes through the TPO.
No, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman,
Central Virginia.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Peterson,
if I may add from, okay, if I may add from the CVTA, the as is the same. There's some of these people have different, but as our technical advisory committees also have a lot of the same people representing our jurisdictions. So there is significant coordination between CVTA and the TPO. But the MOU strictly is dealing with administrative staff to handle the administrative functions of the CVTA, and that is PlanRVA.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
It's just that sometimes that it appears that both of the organizations are actually one and they're not. I just want to.
You must have been eavesdropping on Ms. Peter.
Organizations. Okay.
Yes, I think you might have been eavesdropping on a conversation Ms. Heater and I had just this week about that it's confusing. We've even talked about some of the ways of websites, and I think it's something we're trying to address as we work on our brand strategy and understanding how everything fits. And right now with CVTA, everything is very fluid and growing, so I could understand the confusion. So thanks for asking for the clarification. Okay, anything else? Okay, at that we move into our standing committee and other reports. Nothing that we haven't already spoken about from the executive committee that meeting this morning, so not too much there. From my report, I did want to recognize many of you may have known a great member of the Goochland community who served on our board of supervisors for 8 years and was the current vice chair of our school board. William Quarles very sadly passed away very suddenly last week. I know he's been involved in a lot of regional things and was a great public servant part of his life. Now, he was also served as a school board member of our district, and being a very new person in politics, he was a really great person. It was funny, on political lines we didn't necessarily see eye to eye, but from how to actually work together, it was probably it was a beacon for a lot of folks, just because he was very kind and will be very missed. So I just wanted to take a moment to recognize Mr. Quarles and his sad passing. So also wanted to just thank everybody. It's been the level of support and that we've received going through a lot of these different things. Pieces that have popped up has been great, and it's a real sense of teamwork, and I just greatly appreciate that. So thank you, everybody, and looking forward to some great. Our localities are going through a lot. You know, I've taken the liberty of popping in and watching some of your meetings and seeing what's going on, and we're all, no matter the size of our county, we're all dealing with issues. They may impact a larger number of people or a smaller number, but they're still huge impacts. So the work you're doing for your localities means a lot, and you're here for a reason. So thank you for that. Mr. Holland, I will turn it over to you now for the Audit, Facilities, and Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I would like to share that the Finance Committee did, at its last meeting, did in fact, because it was concerned about our ongoing financial operating statement. And as you know, the imperative number one, stabilize our financial condition, has been ongoing for the last year or two. And so the committee, in its wisdom, voted and asked Martha to seek outside resources to assist us to ensure that we're on track and that we can achieve our full potential financially. And therefore, Ms. Martha will share some comments relative to what she has done based on the vote and the ask of the Finance Committee. And I want to thank the Finance Committee for being engaging and on top of this issue. So, Ms. Heater, could you add maybe a few more comments relative to what you are doing?
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'll first take a moment just to say thank you so much to both the Chesterfield Finance Administration and the Henrico County Finance Administration staff members who have been working with us over the last several days, as well as the last month or so, to assist us in identifying areas where we can improve. As Mr. Holland said, the committee did authorize us to move forward with seeking some external technical assistance. So we've also done that, and we've had opportunity actually later this afternoon to be able to pull that team together to be able to discuss findings and next steps. So the committee will be hearing more information as we move forward with that effort. But we are working currently to reduce expenses in areas. So we've done a couple of things. I've identified those in the narrative of the financial statements report, but have made some affirmative steps in January and February to be able to cut certain operating expenses. We're also working to maximize our revenues, and what that means essentially is to be able to make sure that we have our staff members working on appropriately on the work that will increase opportunity for revenue in this fiscal year. And we're, as Mr. Holland indicated, the technical assistance that we're receiving from the two counties, as well as our external support, will be helping us to strengthen our internal processes and make sure that we're effectively recording all of our grant activities and maximizing the opportunity there. So working on multiple fronts to be able to turn the tide of the current finances, and again, just very appreciative for the support during this time.
Thank you, Ms. Heater. Very well said. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Holland. And now we have our financial statements.
Ms. Heater, would you give us an overview of where we are financially?
Absolutely. The financial statements in detail are included in your packet. You have a profit and loss statement for both December and November. I will bring you up to speed of where we are currently with the December financial statements. The good news is that we are continuing in a positive cash position and are continuing to function above the $1 million reserve threshold. However, the year-to-date profit and loss does report a negative net loss for the year. And so, as I mentioned, those efforts that we've taken to reduce expenses, increase our revenues, and it is intentional to turn that tide to be able to report to you a better financial position going forward. Just to give you a little bit of insight, our total year-to-date net loss is $42,102. December was a large contributor to that in $14,000. Largely, those losses in December are with regard to holidays that occur in December, as well as leave. But we know that we need to make some other internal changes to be able to turn the tide. Our total income is under budget by 15.7%, and year-to-date reimbursements for salary are at 55%. We really need to make sure that we're targeting activities that generate revenue and that we're increasing that share of reimbursement from our revenue sources. So that's a big part of the move going forward. We do have some program expenses that are lagging. That's pass-through funding. It's lagging at about 36%. Most of that is due to COVID. We had a number of our programs in emergency management that we're just frankly not able to undertake. There are pass-through grants awarded in that program that we're not able to hold in-person training events, and the grant applications were specific to those types of activities. So we're working with our local and state partners to determine the course of action, whether that's an extension or it's a reprogramming of dollars to different activities than what was originally approved. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have from things that you see in the financial statements.
Thank you, Ms. Heater. Any questions? If not, I would be happy to entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion. Jim Holland.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Newbill. Thank you, Mr. Holland. And this one, I believe, Eric, can we do this by acclamation? I think in reading your lips, you're saying sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Ms. And that's not bad with the beard and mustache. That's pretty good. All right. For all those, any additional discussion before we vote? All those in favor of accepting the November and December financial statements, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Holland and Ms. Here. And Mr. Holland, thank you for all the hard work the committee is doing. I know you guys are lifting the lion's share of this for us. So thank you so much. And now I will turn it over to Mr. Davey to give an update from the Public Outreach and Engagement Committee.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly, sir.
Great. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. As you know, we've been working to improve the capacity for PlanRVA public engagement. We've chosen to go out to RFP to try to get professional teams on board to help us on an on-call basis for 3 specific tasks that were all funded through different grants that I'll summarize in a minute. The RFP, Martha's staff put it out on the street February 1st. They hosted a webinar series to try to get questions and engagement with different vendors on the 5th. There's a lot of activity. I've even talked to a couple of my colleagues that are in that business that are excited about responding to the proposals that are due in March. The RFP has 3 main tasks. One is the public engagement strategy and implementation for this organization, which is, we just talked about the importance of that in imperative number 3. That's being funded by a grant from the Community Foundation. And then 2 different tasks associated with emergency preparedness. We're going to recruit some of this external expertise for development of the whole community preparedness campaign and an update to the regional preparedness guide that was developed. And both of those are funded through Department of Emergency Management grants. So again, consistent with the fiscal imperatives, making sure that we're improving capacity, providing services, but also doing that through funds that Martha's staff has been able to secure. So we're excited to actually see the responses in March. The committee will be sitting on the selection committee to interview the different consultants that will be brought on board. And so we're very excited to be able to have things to report, probably in time for the possibly the March meeting, but definitely in April. I will share that with some of the resignations at board seats and city council seats that was talked about at the opening of the meeting. It's a tiny little committee at this point, thanks to Mr. Thornton and staff and myself. Obviously, we're trying to bump things along, but we would love to have other participation if any other PlanRVA board members are interested in joining us. So I'm available to answer any questions. And of course, Martha's here to go into more detail if anybody wants to learn more about what I shared.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davey. Any comments or volunteers? Mr. Davey, I'm very, as somebody that is in the advertising and marketing business myself, I completely appreciate the importance of this and love the how you're going after it and the importance we're putting on this, because it does, they go hand in hand. The more people know about what you do and how you do it, the more they'll be asking for it, and get our services out there. And does nothing but help not just our financials, but it also helps the region, which is why we're here.
Well, and that's the perspective I'm sharing as well. Timmons Group is a consultant, so we often act as an extension of staff. But if people are not aware of what you're good at, then they don't necessarily know to hire your firm to go do those things. So Martha and I have talked a lot about how we can sort of use the same tricks of the trade that Timmons Group tries to work for all of you as our client, as she reaches out to different potential clients. there's one other added benefit of us bringing on professional support staff through these funded opportunities is any one of the 9 jurisdictions will also have access to these same consultants, so that'll be another sort of added capacity and added benefit that each of the 9 jurisdictions could benefit from as well. So I'm very, very excited about it. I think it's a great move at the right time.
That's fantastic. I don't know if I have your meeting on my on the calendar or not, but I'd be happy to attend to hear what you guys are doing. So
Great.
I'll be your first pseudo volunteer.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Davey. Ms. Heater, what do you got for us?
Thank you. Kind of in the spirit of the discussion earlier this morning about the imperatives, I thought I would tick through a couple of exciting things that are happening that our staff are working on. So if you'll indulge me, I'll hit some highlights of some projects that you may or may not be familiar with. In the community development program area, we are wrapping up our analysis of impediments to fair housing. You'll recall that this is a interesting project that we took on last year with support. Contract administrative support really is the function that PlanRVA is providing to 6 jurisdictions around the region. They are the cities of Colonial Heights, Hopewell, Petersburg, Richmond, Henrico County, and Chesterfield County. And we've been working with the staff and their community development departments, as well as some of the housing authorities, to complete this project. The work is scheduled to be completed in March, and I know that the local staff members are reviewing the documents actually this week. And so looking forward to that. Mark Bittner is our project manager on that and really has been playing the role of consultant manager and convener of the working group that's overseeing the analysis itself. I also did have an exciting opportunity to participate in a listening and work session yesterday with Virginia Housing. They are considering promotion of or rollout of a new program this coming May. So very fast approaching, but an opportunity for planning district commissions to be eligible for a certain base level of funding to be able to promote the development of affordable housing units in their region. They're excited about the opportunity to tap into the network of planning district commissions across the Commonwealth to be a vehicle to get funding into regions to be able to really at the end of the day get new units on the ground. So more to come on that. We'll be reaching out to your local government staff to see what that could look like and whether or not our planning district commission should put our hat in the ring for that new opportunity that's coming our way. In the emergency management space, our Alliance Executive Committee, the Emergency Management Alliance Executive Committee held their annual retreat and planning session last week. A large part of that was discussing the impacts of COVID and what that has meant to the Alliance itself and ability to participate in various activities and how we'll be approaching the upcoming grant season. So we're really just want to say, continue to be grateful for what your emergency managers are doing on a daily basis, working behind the scenes in many, many capacities right now, not just with winter weather, but also with COVID response. So those folks are an amazing group of people, and we're really grateful to be able to support them through our regional grants and different activities. We are with the Alliance preparing for a regional recovery workshop. This is geared toward local government local government administrators and their senior executive teams. And so that's scheduled for March, and the promotional information began, I think, about 2 weeks ago to be able to get that on the calendars and the radar screen of your local government managers and their executive teams. So that's happening. The workshop itself will be facilitated by a firm that we used to develop our regional recovery framework last year, and that's the Olson Group, and Katie Moody is our staff member that is leading that work effort with them. I'll mention Mrs. Page and Mr. Moyer. Kate Hale is the chief architect and chairs the planning committee, so thanks to her for the work that she's doing there. Finally, our hazard mitigation planning effort is underway. And so that is a huge partnership between the Emergency Management Alliance, PlanRVA, the Crater Planning District Commission, and your local planning and various other departments, quite honestly. And so we're really excited about that. We put an RFP out in the fall, and we secured a contract with Salters Creek. I believe that they are also the lead consultant for the Hampton Roads region's hazard mitigation plan update. So we're excited about that alignment and kind of timing of those two large regions of the Commonwealth working together with the same consultant. We'll be working with VDEM over the next probably year and a half to be able to get that project going and completed. And this is a critical project insofar as really being able to assure that your local jurisdictions are eligible for federal aid if and when there's a disaster. So the regulations from FEMA I mentioned have evolved over the last probably 5 to 7 years. So our last hazard mitigation plan was pretty specifically targeted at natural hazards. The guidance from FEMA post-pandemic has been to expand that to man-made disasters and public health disasters. And so we're going to be working to identify ways that we can learn from the last 10 months and really understand how we can think about hazards in a much more comprehensive way for our region and our vulnerabilities and mitigation strategies. In the environment space, we hosted a really exciting workshop just a week ago. It is the Lower Chickahominy Watershed Partnership kickoff meeting. And so that involved folks from Charles City County, New Kent County, as well as the tribal organizations, the Chickahominy Eastern Division, and the Pamunkey tribal organizations, and just really excited about the opportunities there to be able to think about how these newly designated tribal organizations in our region can work with local government. It's a evolving process and an evolving and growing relationship, but I do want those of you who may not have the tribal organizations as property owners or as active members of your communities to be aware that we do have these new entities in our organization, in our footprint. And I think we're going to be continuing to work with our state and federal partners to understand how to appropriately engage them and make sure that they're included at the table as local governments are working on future planning activities. This particular partnership is really geared toward preservation of ecological and economic benefits of the Lower Chickahominy watershed. And so it's a great opportunity for those entities, the counties and the tribal organizations to kind of work together to see where they share common interests and can work together for that benefit. And this work effort is funded through the Department of Coastal Zone Management. We also executed a new agreement with the Department of Environmental Quality for continuation of our Chesapeake Bay Watershed Improvement Program, an additional source of funding for this year, which is great, and to continue to support our localities that are not MS4 designated to be able to continue their work to comply with the Chesapeake Bay TMDL standards. And we kicked off a new PSA effort with Henrico County litter prevention program, Keep Henrico Beautiful, for our regional Don't Trash Central Virginia campaign. And it's been exciting the last couple of days. Mr. Spoonhauer, I think this is one of those that we talked about just recently, and you were brainstorming ways that we might be able to get Goochland involved. I got an inquiry yesterday from Chesterfield County about how they could get involved. And I know that Mr. Thornton and Mr. Davey and I have talked about ways that we can kind of beef up our effort to promote litter prevention in the region. It's an area that we all struggle to be able to keep litter off of the ground. Finally, Sarah Stewart and I will be participating in the Technical Advisory Committee for the Governor's new Coastal Resilience Master Planning Framework. This is an effort that has been a labor of love for Admiral Ann Phillips, who's a special appointee for the governor, and we'll be continuing to work on that. So more information to come about that. But this is potentially a very tremendous opportunity to be able to identify how we can more effectively braid funding sources together to be able to promote resiliency, particularly in the area of flooding for our region. And so that, again, harping back to the consent agenda item, the application for the flood mapping tool is going to be, I think, a really helpful base layer of data to be able to help think about how we mitigate the impacts of flooding going forward. And we'll be working on our renewals for our environmental program over the next month. Most of them are due in March. So that's kind of happening right now and keeping Sarah Stewart on her toes for sure. In the transportation space, as we've talked about, we're continuing our support of the Central Virginia Transportation Authority. For those of you that are not as intimately involved as others, just wanted to share that we've been able to achieve, I think, some really exciting milestones with that in working with the finance teams from Chesterfield and Richmond City. The Central Virginia Transportation Authority has received its first tranche of revenue disbursements. So we're really excited about that. Your tax revenue for state sales tax for October and fuels tax for July, August, and September have been distributed through the formulas, and we're getting ready to be able to make the second round of distributions to the localities. And I just want to commend Chet Parsons and Nicole Mueller for their efforts to be able to provide the support to that entity as it gets up and running. We're moving forward with the prioritization tool under the work directed by the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization, the MPO. As many of you that serve on that board know, the range plan is well underway, and a big component of that is the prioritization tool to be able to understand the implications of certain funding priorities and what investments could do to our transportation infrastructure. So SULAB and many others are working, SULAB Ariel and many others are working on that, but had a great meeting earlier this week with our technical advisory committees for both the TPO and the CVTA to talk about that regional prioritization tool, how it will, how it could work for the allocation of the RSTP and CMAQ dollars on the TPO side, and then the Central Virginia Transportation regional funds as well. So more to come on that, but it's really exciting. I know many of you have been engaged in conversations with your local staff about the results of the recent smart scale allocations, and our staff have been working with your staff to understand several of our projects in the region did slide on the priority list. And so while we know some of the reasons for that, really want to be sure that we understand how we can continue to be competitive. We seem to kind of go up and down in this region as far as the results region-wide with smart scale. And so again, really trying to understand how we can boost our competitiveness with those applications will be the target for next round in about 18 months. And then finally, we're gearing up to prepare for recertification in 2021. So as you know, the MPO goes through an every 3-year recertification process. It's PlanRVA's responsibility to assure that we've been able to fulfill all of the recommendations and findings from prior certification years. So Chet and I are meeting with the VDOT team now to start to prepare for that, so that we are, and we'll be reaching out proactively to the Federal Highway team as well to be able to understand what their proposed timeline is, what it will look like, and how we can make sure that we're on top of that for this coming cycle. And then lastly, just kind of on a few other initiatives, just wanted to say thanks to those of you who have been tuning in to the Better Together webinar series. I've just been so excited to see the support and the growing interest in that particular set of events. We've had more attendees each month. So we've hosted 3 of those sessions so far and are really grateful for your attendance. This coming February webinar is next Thursday at 2 o'clock. Hopefully you have it on your calendar and you'll tune in, but I'll share with you that it will include a panel of speakers from Richmond Region Tourism talking about the tourism master plan. So really exciting work that they're doing. Jack Berry, Catherine O'Donnell, and David will be talking about that on the panel moderated by Neil Amin. So I'm grateful for that. And I'll let you know that each session that we've had, we've gotten even more views and hits on the YouTube channel. So it's exciting to see not just the attendance from you guys, but also those that are out in the public who are taking an interest in the series. And then finally, as I mentioned before, we're looking to kick off the regional indicators update in March. So more to come on that, but we have had some exciting conversations with some prospective funders that might be interested in helping us move that to a more digital space and really be able to create kind of an interactive dashboard to be able to use to pull down data and let each of our member jurisdictions and partner organizations access that kind of at the ready instead of waiting for a printed report every. So that was a lot, probably intentionally, to let you know. Our staff members are just really doing a phenomenal job. It's so exciting to be able to talk with them and meet with them during their programmatic updates and hear the energy and enthusiasm. As difficult as it has been right now through the last 10 months to work remotely, I am just really excited and proud of the work that our staff is doing and creativity that they're still continuing to bring every day to this work, and you know, just appreciate the support and the coordination with your local government staff, because it wouldn't be possible without them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Heater. That's an outstanding update, and thank you to your staff for all the hard work they continue to do. And looking forward to seeing this in a way that we can digest and truly appreciate in the upcoming months. So thank you for your work on that. Do we have any new business? Okay. Now we're going to move into the commissioner comments, and this is I really look forward to this topic. And what I hope this evolves into is, you know, being able to share taking this as an opportunity to share the great things that your county might be doing, or even just to throw a puzzle out there. So I'll lead by example. I got a call yesterday from the chairperson of the Goochland charter of the NAACP, talking about the need to get vaccinations out in the minority communities, but also specifically, how do we address shut-ins receiving the vaccine? I've been on a lot of calls and I haven't heard anything like that. So if anybody knows of any strategies around that and can reach me offline, you know, just send me an email or ping me and we can touch base. I'd love to know if anybody's tackling that. So with that being said, we'd love to hear from y'all and what's going on.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. McGrath.
So I got a short list of things that are going on in the town of Ashland. You may have seen in the news, we partnered with our EDA, and for us, it's a big deal. We bought a depressed motel, and we hope to level it and entice a higher end hotel to come in, or something else to renovate, update our corridor on 95. We instituted an arts incentive grant, mostly trying to target artists that maybe aren't able to reach out to more at-risk communities. And we were able to use that grant to help a person develop piano lessons for some at-risk youth in our area, which was kind of neat. And we're hoping to do more of that type of thing. And then we have a project called the Railroad Park. It's really not the Ashland project. This is in partnership with our downtown association. But given that Ashland was put on the map basically because it has a train station in it, between Richmond and DC, we were hoping to maybe create a railroad park that entices people to stop in our town and along their journey from wherever they're headed. So anyway, that's the update for Ashland.
Mr. McGraw, you get a gold star. That is exactly what I was hoping folks would share. So, man, way to carry my vision forward, dude. Great job.
Hey.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm Patricia Page for New Kent County. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I will tell you that here in New Kent, we have established a New Kent COVID vaccine call center, where we have registered 700 to 800 of our residents in a database in hope of a release of vaccine here in the county the first week or two of March. And so we stand ready and armed to get our residents here vaccinated. For those that are shut in when they call in to register, or their family members that register as well, we're asking them, do they have transportation to one of the sites? And we have already designated 3 sites throughout our county, at each end of the county and in the middle, and efforts to get everyone that registered vaccine here in New Kent County. So that's exciting for us. It's exciting for our residents to call a number and actually speak to a person. And so I'm grateful for our fire chief and our administrative assistant for working so diligently to get this up and running. And then second, for all that have been viewing CBS WTVR on yesterday afternoon at 5:30, and even this morning, New Kent is excited because during the month of Black History, one of our own, Miss Orphine Watkins Crump, the Black alumni of Virginia Commonwealth University have established a scholarship for first generational college students to help them with their education endeavors at the Virginia Commonwealth School of Business. So we are excited that this scholarship was named in honor of Ms. Orphine Crump, who was our first Black member of the New Kent County School Board here, as well as working for the Consolidated Bank and Trust for over 30 years. And so we're just excited about our show of diversification and support for all here in the county. And with that being said, I want to end by wishing everybody a happy Valentine's Day. Thank you, sir, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Those are two hard acts to follow up.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman. This is Jim Hall in Chesterfield County. A few items to mention. First, we're working very collaboratively with the Chesterfield Health District, which is the state's function to do vaccinations. As you know, the rollout was somewhat not as we would expect it, not as smooth operationally in terms of information received. And you pointed out so well, Mr. Chairman, that we need to work with those who don't have computers, who don't even have phones. I've received many phone calls from citizens who want to know what's going on. And I applaud our county administrator and fire chief for working. And of course, our deputy county administrator, Dr. Worsley, for working on having good data, number one, and also informing the citizenry as to the rollout and how to meet the needs, and also to expand sites throughout Chesterfield County, which is quite large, you know, over 440 square miles. So we're working collaboratively in that effort, and that's an ongoing effort. And I think you'll be hearing more in the news about our collaborative work with the Chesterfield Health District, which is a state agency, as you well know. In addition, this is Black History Month. And I was very pleased last Friday evening to kick it off at Virginia State University, our partner in Black History. Last Friday evening, we had a program that was live streamed, so hopefully it was recorded. And I should say that we have a host of activities scheduled for the month. All you have to do is to register or sign up is go to chesterfield.gov and/or Virginia State VSU.edu, our partner with Black History. This is our 32nd year in the region of promoting Black History events, premier events throughout. There's library events throughout our library system of over 9 libraries in Chesterfield County. For example, tonight, Thursday, February 11th at 7 to 8 p.m., we have the history and importance of HBCUs. And it's so important that we utilize these opportunities to understand how things came into fruition, why they came into fruition, and the benefits we have today and the future for our communities, our state, and our nation. And so I'm so pleased that that effort continues. That's one I certainly want to listen in on, because I always find out there is something I don't know. Even though I've studied African-American history in college, where I was really indoctrinated in the great state of North Carolina, attending 2 HBCUs, as you well know. So, and one thing I shared last Friday, I'll share with each of you for your respective counties. I'm asking every individual, and this is for Chesterfield as well, which will be forthcoming, so you get a preview. I'm asking every individual to learn one fact they do not know about African American history, which is embedded, intertwined in American history. Find one fact you do not know, which means that's research. There are a number of ways to do it now, more than ever in the history of mankind. So that's one thing I would say, write it down and share it. And I've learned as an instructor, professor of teaching, when you write things down, write information down, you learn it. And therefore you can share it. So that's my request of each person who is listening to me. And thank you for this opportunity to share briefly.
Thank you so much, Mr. Holland. Anyone else like to go next? Okay. Last chance. All right. Well, thank you all so much. That was exactly, for those that chimed in, that was great. I have a list of things I will be following up with some of you. And this is really when, again, I think I tell the story a lot. My first meeting with Martha, when assuming chair, she said, "What's your plan for the year?" My answer was to survive it. But I really do see this as an opportunity to learn from each other and Mr. Holland. So that's great. Learn, always learning, you know. And so it is great to see we have a lot of great things going on in our region. We don't often get a platform to do that. And if we can take 30 minutes a month and share what some great things that some of our partner localities are doing, I tune into that. I tune into that all day long. So thank you all for your comments and participation. And at that, I will adjourn our meeting until next month. Thank you all so very much, and stay safe and stay healthy. And